Hi everyone, my name is Josephine Miles and I'm presenting on the book Ordered to Care. It was the book I chose for my project in this class. And basically the author examined the ideologies, practices and efforts at reforms of both trained and untrained nurses in the years between 1850 and 1945. So the book basically provides an overall history of nursing's development and concludes with a discussion of why nursing will have to move beyond its obligations to care and what the implication of this change would be for all of us. So I'll give a brief background. Nursing, as we all knew, it didn't really start off as a profession. If you were born as a woman around that time, the 1850 and 1945, you were basically considered, to be a nurse. You're going to care for somebody at some point in your life, either a family member or someone. So it was mostly like a duty call, but not like a profession or seen as a profession. So I'll do the history as a pedagogy. According to Reverby, who is the author of the book, nursing at the time was segregated by race, sex, and economic status. So when they saw that nursing could actually move beyond the home to care for other people, they started training women to become nurses. But then there was a problem. After reading the book, I figured that was a problem. It was segregated by race. You had to be white to be, in quote, trained as a nurse, and then the domestic nature of caring for the sick at home and the others was given to the black, especially black immigrants. And then it was mostly for poor people. Only poor people could enroll, and obviously for women. So nursing students receive harsh treatment while being supplied to the hospitals as cheap labor. When they set up the training institutions, what they did was, it was, in quote, you are under training, but at the same time they would use you to do the nursing work in the hospital. But because it wasn't recognized as a job, because you were still under training, the students were not being paid. They were basically being exploited. And also, the training institution became, the medical profession saw it as a threat to their training. They are doctors, and to see another woman to be trained as a professional was a threat to them as well. So they also, contributed to the harsh treatment that the students will receive while in school. So what did that history do for contemporary nursing? What do we see now? So much has happened over the years, and we'll get to that later, but now we see that contemporary nursing schools obviously has zero tolerance for harsh treatment for students. I went to a nursing school, and in my mind, I was internationally educated. In my mind, I had always thought I received the military style training, because you had to respect your seniors. There were clothes that you couldn't wear and all of that. But after reading that book, I knew where that training was actually coming from. But then at the same time, it's nothing compared to what they had to endure. So much has changed over the time. And of course, now we see that it's not a female dominated career. We have males working as nurses, and then also we have all races at working as nurses. So that part of history probably served as, a teaching experience that it doesn't work that way. Those harsh treatments doesn't necessarily mean it will produce discipline in the students. So why do we consider this part of history as evidence? So over the years, while they started working towards making the profession, the training, trained nurses be recognized as professionals, they went through several, debates, several reforms, several arguments over which was the better way. But at some point in the history, um, while the economy was changing at the same time, industrial revolution, there was the introduction of efficiency into the work that they did. They came up with different ways that things could be accomplished. So one of the things that I found, a quote, it was efficiency was to be the link between service and science, the bridge over which nursing traveled to be accepted as a profession. And it was a beautiful story, that an account that the author gave, Susan gave, in the book. And I felt this was a good part that will show us how important science is to the profession. It was at the time, and what could we do without science in our day? So Goodrich was a student nurse who was asked by her superintendent to do an overwhelming job. It was part of her duties for the day, and the workload was very high. You can find this account in page 151, 150 to 151. So it was very overwhelming, and at the end of the day, she could not really accomplish that task. Her superintendent became so mad that why she couldn't, accomplish it, why she kept on explaining that it was difficult to accomplish within the time frame that she was given. So what Goodrich did was to provide a timeline of how long it would take for her to actually complete it, and presented it to her superintendent at the time. And it was revealed that the work would have taken 17 hours instead of the 11 that was allotted to her. That was the scientific evidence that she was able to provide. And that was because at the time they had introduced scientific study into the program. So people had started using critical thinking to work and to ensure that the work was efficient. So that was an account that really showed how important science is to the profession. So like I said before, efficiency was the link between service and science, and the bridge over which nursing traveled to be accepted as a profession. This discovery served as a strong voice in today's nursing. Contemporary nursing mostly thrives on evidence-based sources for best practice, and I believe we can all agree that in today's nursing, most of our practices is based on evidence-based, research that people have done for best ways to practice something. Quality management, how to prevent falls and all of that. Many have done research on it that helps us in today's nursing. So this part of history was really helpful in our day. And also history as an explanation. So Reverby explained that the circumstances surrounding nursing in that era necessitated the need for a reform that would change it into a profession. So those circumstances, like I described earlier, include low wages, harsh treatment in nursing schools, exploitation of student nursing, and hospitals controlling entry nursing school, and physicians demanding nursing to be merely kindly woman and practically trained subordinate. They could not take it, the fact that another woman is going to be trained as a profession, so they had to become a barrier to it. So what they did was formation of a national organization that led to nursing being recognized as a profession. So we see once the organization was set up, they came together, they presented their case. Remember, they had the evidence. They could now prove why nursing should be recognized as a profession. And many changes in policies that we see in the profession, even in today's world, is mostly due to their work. That organization started it all, come together and change things. So why is this history important? Why is it relevant in nursing today? This part of history shows us how the profession has evolved over years. It went from being a primary nursing went from being a primary duty of a woman to a profession that not only provides care but has a voice in the healthcare system. Now, even though we have not fully realized the other aspect beyond care, nursing does more than just provide care. We see nurses in administrative positions, nursing in policy making committees, and doing much more than just bedside nursing. So the account in this book shows us the power of advocacy and the power of nursing organizations. So if we look through how we arrived for nursing to become a profession, we can say many of our predecessors actually did much more. They advocated, they debated on why the nursing should be recognized as a profession. So the achievements of our predecessors should be a guiding force that contemporary nurses can rely on to move the profession beyond the ambience of care to where it ought to be. And I would say this, continuous education is important. That's how you know what is happening, and you broaden your skills so you can become an independent and an autonomous body that can be a part of the change that we need in nursing today. Thank you so much for listening. And once again, my name is Josephine Miles. I presented on Order to Care, the dilemma of American nursing between the years of 1850 and 1945. And the book was written by Susan M. Reverby. Thank you.